my weird team, the Celtics,
Mm.
on another 3-game winning streak. We're taping this in the morning on Thursday. Another 3. The Celtics are ripping off 3-game winning streaks left and right. Last night, I watched with my dad. My dad's in town. And it was one of the more encouraging Celtics games. It had all the makings of the game they've lost 15 times this year, where they had the lead, they're in control, a couple dumb things happened, and then they blew it late. But this time they didn't blow it. And Udoka has done a couple things that I'm not positive I agree with, but I understand why he's doing it. They have an 8-man rotation now. Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, Romeo Langford no longer play.
Yeah.
Jason Richardson playing more. Schroeder is now coming off the bench. And I think he's just like, look, this is what we're doing. Nothing else has worked. Let's roll with our 8 guys. I thought they were going to be a seller. We mentioned Smart before. I thought for sure Smart, definitely Richardson. Richardson, who's playing well this year. And I've even warmed up to him a tiny bit. My dad loves him. I was shocked. But he's like 11 million, 12 million for this year, next year, and is like the perfect guy for a team like the Jazz, who have, we'll talk about them in a second. But now I don't know. I don't know what they do because they have these 3 young guys that I don't know what their value is. I still feel like Jalen Brunson would be the guy that would get their attention. But if you're Dallas, how do you trade him? Like, you're playing really well. You're in a West where you have a chance to get the 4th seed.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what the trade is for them. I wrote down Aaron Gordon, Sabonis as a wild card if they wanted to get really crazy and get Time Lord and Marcus Smart in there and just like really make a run. And then Halliburton, I know they've liked for a while, and just in case Sacramento, you never know with them. Anybody else I'm missing?
I mean, to me, their need is still organization. It's not even a good point guard. It's a guy who organizes their offense. And that's where Smart of late has been so valuable. It's just getting the ball to the right places. They're trusting him to do a little bit more, to the point where if you're Boston, I'm not sure you can afford to give up Marcus Smart with the way he's playing for you offensively right now and the role he's filling there, unless you're getting a guy you know can do that. That's where Jalen Brunson gets really interesting. Maybe you could talk yourself into Derek White if he's available from San Antonio. I could see that fit being okay. Other than that, and this is kind of an interesting side effect of the way that position has evolved, is there are a lot of good guards in the league right now. There are a lot of guards who are available right now. But how many of them really specialize in getting an offense into its stuff?
Yep.
And that's just kind of a skill set of a bygone era in a lot of ways, that kind of like game management mentality. But, not just being a pass first player, getting the ball to the players who need touches, getting you through your possessions, getting you through your priorities. There aren't a lot of guards available who do that stuff other than Jalen Brunson. And at times, Marcus Smart is pretty good at that. It's not always there for him, but I think he's better than what a lot of the market would offer you.
I was looking at Utah pretty hard and Mike Conley and trying to figure out if there was a Boston-Utah thing that could work there.
I don't think they would punt on Conley. He's pretty crucial to them, especially with Ingles out.
Yeah, that's where I landed. But first I was like, all right, Smart, Conley, how does this work?
Mm-hmm.
If those were the 2 principles and we put some more stuff, and maybe Richardson's in there too, and maybe it's Smart Richardson for Conley, something else. Utah's way over the tax. And I think I'll be interested to see what they do, because that's a team that could also just send Joe Ingles to OKC, and because he's out for the year, and offer OKC $3 million and removing the protections of some pick or sending a future pick or whatever. But I don't think they want to pay the tax of the team they have. But yeah, I was trying to figure out, because Conley is the type of guy that would make a ton of sense for the Celtics.
Yeah.
And if you're Utah and you can't really win with the team you have right now, is it worth using Conley and maybe even the Ingles contract to try to throw stuff together? I think Utah's kind of stuck with what they have, though, because I'm with you. I think Conley's too crucial for them and they'd be too afraid to do that. But you could argue like, well, then Mitchell would have, that you basically just steer the offense to Mitchell and try to build a different team. With the Celtics, I think Smart has to be in the Brunson trade.
Yeah. And that's one that, like, Smart would be at the top of your wish list if you're Dallas too. Like, that's exactly the kind of guard you want to play with Luka.
So that trade would look like, Brunson's making less than $2 million a year, but he has an extension coming. 4 for 55. Dallas, that's the most they could offer. Celtics could give him 4 for 80. If if it was smart for Brunson and like Dwight Powell that actually works under the cap, that gets the Celtics under the luxury tax for this season, which is one of their goals, regardless of how this goes. They're pretty close now. And then if you're Dallas, did you upgrade your team? Is Jalen Brunson to Marcus Smart? Does that make you better, or are you going sideways? What's your opinion on that?
I think it makes you better in the ways you need to be better, oddly enough. Jalen Brunson, I think, is going to be a pretty valuable player, not just financially, but for the Mavs or whoever he plays for. Like, he's just a really good shot creator, really capable guy in terms of driving to the basket, generating angles. But what the Mavericks weirdly kind of need, and I say this for a team that their defense is further along than their offense is right now, statistically speaking, but they really need a long-term fit next to Luka who can guard 1 through 3, who has that like defensive flexibility and isn't an offensive liability. Like, they need someone who can take on the premier defensive assignments more capably than Dorian Finney-Smith, bless him, who's just overtaxed and overstretched in his role, can do. And Marcus Smart could be that guy for them. So I think he could fit what they need a little bit more cleanly than Brunson does.
The problem with Dallas is they're one of those teams. I would never do this if I was a GM. These crazy protections that roll over the course of 4 years. You're paralyzed by just having one pick like that, where it's like, well, we have trouble, we get this. And I think they're one of those teams, right? Where it's like, well, we could trade our first, but then we'd have to waive and it just becomes like a quagmire. But fundamentally, I guess the question for me as a Celtics fan is Jalen Brunson, paying him 4 for $80 after this year, are we in a better spot than we are with Marcus Smart? And it's tough. Marcus, he has a lot of love in Boston. We've been with him a while. We've probably been watching him too long. You can point out all his warts at this point. I'm with you. I like the way he's played offensively the last couple weeks, but we've seen this from him a couple times, and then he'll revert back into the other Marcus, which is not my favorite Marcus. But the Brunson thing, I think he's one of the highest upside trade assets in the league right now, because it's so hard to see what he is next to Luka when Luka has the ball as much as he's had. But we've seen these sample sizes now, and it's the same thing with Halliburton without Fox. We've seen these sample sizes when they haven't had the guy infringing on their usage rate, where like something really good is happening. And I think Brunson, to me, is a playoff point guard. And whether Dallas realizes that or not, I just think I said this last week, we've seen this situation before with OKC and Harden, where when the guy knows he can make more money outside the team he's on, that always becomes dangerous. OKC fundamentally could only go to 4 for 60 for Harden, but other teams could go 5 for 85. And that was always lingering over that whole thing. And with the Brunson thing, he can just make more money on another team. So
he'll be able to make the same money as a free agent if he resigns. It's just the extension, right? That's kind of underserving him. But that's honestly the big question with Brunson, whether we're trading him to the Celtics, whether we're trading him to any team. Is he going to have a pleasant enough experience playing for that team over the next couple of months that he's going to want to re-sign there? Right. And that's where my question would be with Boston. And the vibes in Boston are good right now. As you said, rolling off 3-game win streaks. Are you confident enough in the culture and the architecture of your team that an unrestricted free agent who could sign anywhere and is going to have lots of offers, is he going to want to come back? That would be the question too, if you're giving up someone like Smart.
They have two of the most polarizing Celtics that we've had in a while in terms of just people in my life. Like, I have friends that love Time Lord and just think like he is untouchable. He's our third guy. And I'm just like, I don't get it. I get it. I see it. There's potential. You catch him for 2 straight weeks, but I'm dubious that he could stay in the court. And I just think smart teams go at him. Yesterday, in the Charlotte game, he made the key block. He finally jumped out in time on a 3. I was delighted. I felt like I was watching one of my kids. I'm like, oh, you did it. You jumped out on a 3. But look, my dad, we were driving home from the airport yesterday, and we were talking about Sabonis because we both love Sabonis. And it was just like, if there's a way to end up with Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, and Sabonis, I don't care who else is on the team right now. Like, if it has to be Marcus Smart and Time Lord, and Nesmith has to be in there. Yeah. Whatever it is, like, I'm ready to do it. Because if I can get those 3 guys, I can build the rest of my team with those 3 guys. I think all of them complement each other. I think Sabonis solves some of the creativity issues and some of the ball stagnation because the ball moves. I like the way, he can set picks. You can run pick and rolls with him. He can
handoffs.
initiate offense from the top of the key. And I would if I could get those 3 guys, I'm good. So I don't know. Maybe that's not enough for him. I don't know how Indiana's valuing him, but I guess we'll find out. But
I would say
are you with me on that or no?
I like him. I like him for their team. I don't think they can get him. I don't think the pieces are there.
God damn it. Well, I had
maybe next year.